Hello, dear students. This is Singh, and I welcome you back to today's session with a very big heart. Today, we shall be doing the comprehensive study of yet another prose part from Flamingo book of Standard 12 CBSE. The title of this entertaining as well as philosophical story is The Rattrap, composed by Selma Lagerlof, who was a Swedish author and the first woman writer to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. Hope you all are enjoying my classes, so make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more comprehensive study materials. The Rat Trap is a story that gives us a philosophical insight into human nature. And in this module, I'm going to give you the core of this short story in an extremely coherent and lucid manner so that you can comprehend with ease the setting of the story, its plot, the climax, the theme, and we shall also discuss the character traits of the main characters as well as comprehension check will be there at the end. Before moving on to the storyline, let me give you an overview of this story. The Rat Trap is a story which is set in the middle of the iron ore mines of Sweden. It is about an old, disheartened rat trap peddler who is gripped with cynicism. He saw the world as a rat trap and himself as a victim who had no power over his circumstances, and all his actions resulted from his this outlook towards life. Throughout the story, the protagonist only believed in the dismal side of human nature, survival of the fittest, and viewed the world as a battlefield. But the story ends with a fundamental change in his this philosophy. Edla's compassionate words cracked the foundation of the protagonist's cynical world. As a matter of fact, this story brilliantly captures the powerful and positive effect of a compassionate gesture in bringing out the best in a human being. Here we begin with the storyline. The central character is a peddler whose life was poverty stricken. He earned his living by selling rat traps, which he used to make from the material he got by begging in stores or big farms. But this business was not enough for his livelihood. So sometimes he had to resort to begging and petty thievery in order to survive. He had no home, no shelter, and no friends. His clothes were in rags. He had sunken cheeks, and eyes gleamed with hunger. The unfair society kept him poor and isolated, despite the fact that the peddler tried to make his living through work. The peddler was very pessimistic about the world around him, and cynicism gripped him, making him believe that the world is nothing but very much like the rat trap he says. A big rat trap indeed that offers bait in the form of luxuries and joys, shelter and food that the most human beings are prone to fall into, the trap of materialistic benefits and are left with nothing. Exactly as the rat trap offers cheese and pork till a prey is caught. The peddler was struck by this entertaining idea when he was walking all alone, lost in his thoughts. The peddler undoubtedly led an incredibly lonely and difficult life, and this affected him in extremely negative ways, causing unhappiness and bitterness in his life. The world had never been kind to him, and his harsh life had so disillusioned him that it gave him sadist delight to see others caught in the world's rat trap. It became his cherished pastime to think of all those who had been caught in this world's rat trap, and thus he took pleasure in other people's misfortune. Let's now find out about his stay in Crofter's cottage. One dark evening, the peddler sought shelter for a night in an old Crofter's cottage. Surprisingly, he was not chased away as usual, but was welcomed and was shown compassion by the owner of the cottage, who was an old man without a wife or children. Being a loner, the old man was happy to get someone to talk to in his loneliness, and therefore he welcomed the idea of company. He greeted the peddler with warmth and hospitality. Despite the fact that he did not know the peddler, he opened his arms and acted charitable. They spent the night like friends and enjoyed dinner and tobacco together. They also played cards together. Not only did the old man entertain the peddler like a guest, but also treated him like his friend. So he told him that he had been a crofter at Ramjo's iron work, but now as he could not do day labor, he was supported by his extraordinary cow. He informed him that he had earned a reasonable sum of money from his this extraordinary cow that gave him so much milk for creamery every day that he had earned almost 30 kroner last month. The peddler expressed his disbelief to acknowledge this piece of information. So, in order to assure his guest of the truth, the old man showed a 30 kroner to the peddler. Now the peddler got tempted when he got easy access to Crofter's money, and in the morning, without a twinge of remorse, betrayed him and abused the trust reposed on him by the old man by stealing his saving, that was 30 kroner, which he earned by selling his cow's milk, and left from there. What the peddler did was definitely a breach of Crofter's faith and his generosity. After robbing the crofter's hard-earned money, the peddler felt quite pleased with his smartness. He realized that he had to avoid the public highway for fear of being caught, so he turned off the road into a forest. First few hours posed no difficulty, but as the forest was a big and confusing one, the peddler lost his way. He realized that he had been walking around in the same part of the forest and now he was completely exhausted. He was doomed. He had fallen into a trap and had let himself be fooled by a bet and had been caught in the world's trap. Now, for the first time, he felt that he had become the victim of his philosophy. His own philosophy. The whole forest seemed to have closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from where there was no escape. His reaction revealed nothing but his guilt and the disturbed state of mind. However, the regular thumping of a hammer strokes from an iron mill nearby offered the peddler a ray of hope. He got up with all his strength and started walking in the direction of the sound. Finally, he reached Ramsjo Iron Work and sneaked into the mill unnoticed. This was possible because the blacksmith working there failed to notice the peddler entering the gate and opening the gate and entering the force because the peddler entered the ironwork amidst the different sounds coming from the work which was going on in full swing there. A lot of noise was there in the forest, created by cracking of burning coal, the digging sound, and great deal of clatter. Not only this, the roaring of the waterfall and the sound of the rain on roof was also there. Now let's find out what happened when the owner of the mill came. The owner of the mill was the ironmaster, who was very particular about quality product. His greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market. And for this, he would make his nightly rounds of inspection of the mill to see that the work was done well. The stranger close to the furnace caught his attention that day. So the ironmaster walked close up to him, looked over him very carefully. Even he tore off his hat to get a better view and called him by the name Niels Olof, mistaking him for his old regimental comrade. Not only this, the ironmaster offered to take him home for Christmas. The peddler made no efforts to reveal his identity and let the ironmaster believe that he was an old acquaintance because he thought he might get a couple of kroner from him in the bargain. The peddler actually declined the invitation because he looked quite alarmed and he was afraid because he still had the money, the stolen money with him. The peddler knew that the ironmaster had mistaken him for an old regimental comrade and feared that the ironmaster would send him to the police. He felt as if he was walking into a lion's den, so he firmly declined his invitation. But the ironmaster assumed that that he was ashamed of his rat clothes and economic disparity. So, in order to comfort him, the ironmaster informed him that his sons were abroad and his wife was dead, and he was living only with his daughter Edla. Peddler still declined his invitation. He still said no. Since the refusal was persistent, the iron master finally left. Proceeding further, we find that the ironmaster was bent upon taking him home. So he sent his kind-hearted daughter Edla, who was not pretty but modest and shy, to persuade and invite the peddler. Edla, being a better judge of character, and on witnessing such an abrupt reaction and his fright, she sensed that either he might have committed some crime or had escaped from jail. But Edla ignored all her doubts, thinking that things had gone downhill with him. She felt sorry for him and recognized the man's loneliness. She wanted to give him a brief respite from his isolated existence. So she invited him for Christmas very warmly and in friendly manner. She was actually able to win his confidence because when she sensed the discomfort, she made him feel safe and secure, and all his fear dispelled when she added that he would have the freedom to leave the house whenever he wanted to do so. Now, this assurance left the peddler with no choice. He had to acknowledge her invitation. He was swayed by Edla's friendly, comforting, and understanding nature. Now, students, we have almost reached the climax, that is the turning point of the story. The ironmaster was happy to have his old regimental comrade under his roof. He also planned to feed him well and give him some or arrange some respectable work for him. He had actually first seen the tramp in the dim glow of the furnace, but after the peddler was well groomed, after he had taken his bath, well shaved and well dressed, the ironmaster realized that the stranger was not his old friend. He bore no resemblance to his old friend. It was indeed a case of mistaken identity. The ironmaster was not pleased. He got angry and he felt cheated and accused the peddler of misleading him. He even threatened to call the sheriff, but the peddler defended, saying that he made no pretense about being a captain. It was on the ironmaster's insistence that he came to their house and was now ready to put on his rag and go away. Now, this sudden withdrawal of generosity and its replacement with suspicion or doubt only reinforced the peddler's idea of the world as a fundamentally antagonistic place where one must be selfish and opportunistic to survive. Now, the ironmaster was really impressed with the man's argument and he dropped the idea of contacting the sheriff. Edla, now what happened now? Edla felt sympathetic towards him and she wanted to have the joy of entertaining a homeless wanderer on Christmas. So she convinced her father to let him stay for a day and celebrate because she felt it was unethical to send a guest away as he had been promised Christmas cheer by them. She understood the difficulties of the life of a person like him who could never hope to be made welcome in any home. So she wanted him to enjoy a day of peace with them. He and now father, the iron master, also given. He was completely convinced, and the peddler slept the whole day. He did nothing. He only slept and woke up only for meals. He had not slept that peacefully in comfort and security for many years. She did not for a moment doubt his integrity. She empathized with him and offered him the suit as Christmas present and even invited him for the next Christmas. Now this invitation for the next Christmas had a miraculous effect on him. The rat trap peddler was overwhelmed by such an act of compassion. Edla and her father went to church the next morning for Christmas services, and at church they learned that a Rattrap peddler had robbed an old crofter. This bitter truth dawned on them. The ironmaster criticized Edla for trusting the stranger and letting him into their home. Edla was also downcast and worried that by the time they would return home, the peddler would have escaped with all their silver and other valuables. But on reaching home, the valet informed them that the peddler had left, but he had not taken anything. Indeed, he had left a package for Edla. Edla was happy to see the gift left by the peddler because it restored her faith in the belief that all human beings are basically good. Edla's faith and confidence had not been misplaced. The gift represented that the peddler had undergone a change of heart only after experiencing Edla's kindness and unconditional love. The peddler had not let her down. The gift packet contained a small rat trap as a Christmas gift for Edla, along with a note and the stolen kroner that was to be returned to the rightful owner. The peddler realized that he had been saved from the fate of being caught in the rat trap of the world, and he felt that he could not embarrass them who had elevated his status to that of a captain from an ordinary peddler and a beggar. Now it was his turn to justify his stand and prove that it was Edla's unconditional kindness and respect and an opportunity to enjoy his first true Christmas actually touched the core of his heart. It shattered his whole belief system and enabled him to rise above the evils of greed and behave in a dignified way. The peddler sealed his this promise that he had been transformed to Edla by signing off as Captain Vaughan's telling. This also showed that the peddler was doing more than just making amends for his wrongdoing. He wanted Edla to know that he had been reformed and he would make effort to live up to the dignity and faith bestowed on him by Edla. Considering the personality traits of the main characters of the story, we can say that Edla, the Ironmaster's daughter, plays an extremely important part in the story, not only in terms of her role in the plot, but also in the development of the theme of the story. Edla is exceptionally kind, modest, and compassionate. She is good at convincing. She is also a good judge of character because she concludes that the peddler has robbed someone or has escaped from jail. She is very much rational, practical, and intelligent. She has a better insight of human understanding. Edla understands that a human being values the most is one's dignity. Edla is indeed the most positive figure in the story. Now, talking about the character traits of the Iron Master, we can say that he is the owner of the mill and Edla's father. He is described as a very prominent Iron Master because he is particular about the quality product. He is also a great tax master as he comes for even nightly rounds of inspection of the meal. He is also kind and generous to some extent, but very impulsive and casual in approach. He is a poor judge of character. The protagonist and the central character of the story is an unnamed man who is a rat trap peddler. He leads a poverty-stricken life. He is cynical because life has not been kind to him. He is morally not upright. He is very opportunistic and compares the world to a big rat trap. Finally, we have come to the crofter, who is the owner of the cottage. He is a loner, he is talkative and welcomes the company of the peddler. He is kind and generous with his confidence. He is very hardworking as well as trusting. Well, now let's look at the theme of the story. The Rat Trap is a beautiful story that can be an eye opener as it supports a belief that human kindness is a transformative power because the essential goodness in human beings can be awakened through sympathy, through true understanding, and unconditional love. Material benefits are the traps that most human beings are prone to fall into. However, kindness can change one's bitter attitudes about life. The daughter of the Iron Master empowered the peddler to redeem himself from the world's rat trap, that is, the dishonest ways, through her selfless hospitality, love, genuineness, and understanding, all symbolizing the Christmas spirit. The peddler is a transformed noble man and atoned for his crime in the end. Thus, the story conveys that one should get a second chance to improve oneself. The rat trap also explores the basic human need for companionship and community and highlights the negative effects of loneliness. So the story suggests that the society should bring people together rather than isolating them. It ultimately takes an optimistic view of human nature and advocates for the power of the virtues of kindness and compassion. If we consider the aptness of the title, certainly we can say that The Rattrap is a very well chosen title because it revolves around a poor rat trap peddler who is gripped with cynicism and gets trapped in the world's rat trap due to his greed. The author has very effectively used the metaphor of a rat trap to highlight the human predicament. Just as a rat is fooled by bait and gets trapped, most human beings also fall into the trap of material benefits. The protagonist over here, the peddler, said that he would have remained a rat in this world's rat trap had he not experienced Edla's kindness, which gave him the power to clear himself. Renunciation of the temptation helps in redemption. Thus, we conclude that the title is definitely a befitting and significant one. Here are a few important questions from the chapter for your comprehension check. Taking help from the explanation which I have just given to you, try to solve these questions and deepen your understanding. Keep watching to get the detailed analysis of other chapters too. Thank you.